everyone, it's me, it's Mrs. McKee. I'm back here in my hut. It's pretty chilly, but I'm going to do some warming up with you so that we can finish off our Build It High song. Or maybe try verse 1. We'll see how we go. So hopefully you enjoyed last week. Hopefully you're ready for the tongue twister that is That's the Way We're Put Together, because that's really going to warm us up today. Do you remember? A front and a back and a bottom and a top. Let's just do that. Off we go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. Let's do it again. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. But then it's different, do you remember? Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. So let's see if we can remember how the tune goes. So it starts in our low voice and gradually gets higher. So I think I'm going to start about here and go a front and a back and a bottom and a top. All on one note. Can you try it with me? Off we go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. And then it goes like this. That's the way we're put together. Do you remember it goes all the way back down to your bottom voice? That's the way we're put together. You'll go. That's the way we're put together. So we're going to go from the beginning. I go first. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. You'll go with me. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. Well done. Then do you remember we go a little bit higher? So it goes like this. A front, off we go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. Can you try that with me? A front, off we go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. So could you hear that was the same? Same note to start off with, and then that's the way changes and goes a little bit lower. Okay, and then we go one higher. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's different because it moves higher in the middle. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. You'll go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. And then we get up to our higher bit of our voice to do. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. And you remember that? It moves up a little bit higher as well. And then we're right up here to do a front and a back and a bottom and a top. You'll go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. And then we fall all the way down. That's the way we're put together. You'll go. That's the way we're put together. Great. So do you think we can remember all of that from the beginning? Cross fingers because it's going to get faster. From the beginning, a front. Ready, steady, off we go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. I did it wrong, didn't I? What did I do? I should have gone on one line. I made it up as I went along. Off I go. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. A front and a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. Oh, I did it right that time. How about you? Phew, good. Now, not only does it go faster, but this is where it gets tricky this week. A bit like heads, shoulders, knees and toes. We have to miss out an action or a sound or a word each time. So we start off with doing the whole thing all the way through, but on verse 2, we don't sing the word front. We sing everything else, and backs and all the rest of it, but we don't sing the word front. So it will go like this. And a back and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. And a back and a bottom and a top. Do you get the idea? So we miss out the word front. Verse 3, oh yes, you miss out the word front and the word back. Do you want me to just try that with me? Off we go, up and a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. And a bottom and a top. That's the way we're put together. Do you see? So you can imagine what happens next. We miss out a front and a back and a bottom. Try that with me, just the first bit. Off we go. And a top. Did you see? You still got to sing the anders. Okay. Next time we miss out all of those bits of our bodies. Can we do it? Off we go. And a. That's the way we're put together. And that goes all the way through to the end. Does that make sense? I hope so, because we're going to try it now. So we've got 5 verses. First verse all the way through. Then we miss out front. Then we miss out front and back. Then front, back, bottom. And then front, back and a bottom and a top. So you're only singing anders in the very last verse. Okay, cross fingers, we can do it. I'm going to try my best. I hope you are too. Right, let's make sure it's loud enough. Just in case I go wrong, I want them singing it for me. So here we go. Ready, standing up, super smart. Is it going to play for me or has it gone to sleep? There we go. Are we ready? Super smart. Really big actions. Off we go.
The front and the back and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together. The front and the back and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together. The front and the back and the bottom and the top. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. The front and the back and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together.
Miss out front this time.
And the back and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together. And the back and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together. And the back and the bottom and the top. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. And the back and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together.
Now front and back.
The front and the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together. And the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together. And the bottom and the top. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. And the bottom and the top. That's the way we're put together.
Oh my god, really fast.
And the top. That's the way we're put together. And the top. That's the way we're put together. And the top. Everybody move your body, dance until you drop. And the top. That's the way we're put together.
That's going really fast.
That's the way we're put together. And that's the way we're put together. And everybody move your body, dance till you drop. That's the way we're put together.
Oh my goodness. And if you feel like collapsing now, then I'll be joining you. Gosh, that was exhausting. Let's have a sit down, shall we? Well done. Good try, everybody. I'm going to move my microphone a little bit so that you can hear me a bit more clearly. Well, golly, that was fun. That's definitely warmed me up. I don't know about you. It's been quite chilly in the hut today, so I needed a bit of a warm-up. Okay, so I think we can safely say that that one's done now. So we're going to start another one for next week, everybody. And this one is all about ch sounds. I want you to say this for me. Cheeky Charlie Chick. Can you say that? Cheeky Charlie Chick. And then can you say, is chirping cheerfully? Is chirping cheerfully. I'm going to put all those together. Sounds like this. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. You say it. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Gosh, what a tongue twister that is. Shall we try it again? Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Can you do it 3 times in a row? Try it with me. Off we go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Very good. Well done if you got that without getting in a muddle or your tongue in a twist. The last time though, we're going to do 4 times through. It's slightly different. This time I need you to say this. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. I find that more difficult than the other bit. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. Golly, have you got it? Well done. Now we're going to see if we can put some notes on it. So it should sound from the beginning like this. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Can you hear how it starts on one note and then it does a little bit of a roller coaster of up and down? Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Can you try it with me? Off you go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Let's do it one more time. Off we go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Well done. Now we do the same words and the same rhythm, the same pattern, but it's going to go a little bit higher. Same idea though. My go first. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. I'll do it again. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. You try it. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Let's do that again. Off we go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Very good. I'm going to do those 2 together. See if you can copy after me. Off I go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Off you go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Well done if you've done that without getting in a muddle. Excellent. Here's the last time we're going to sing that bit, and this time it pops up into your higher voice, a bit like the last one did. My go first. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Oh, it pops right up. My go again. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Your go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Can you hear? Oh, roller coaster at the end there, isn't it? One more time for that. Off we go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Very good. And then the last bit we did before that has the different words. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. Oh, I've got to really move your mouth for that one. Sounds like this. Cheep, 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 chirps cheepy Charlie Chick. Did I say cheepy Charlie Chick? I should have said cheeky, shouldn't I? Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. Let's try it together. You'll be better than me, I think. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. Again. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. Oh, golly. Whew. Can we do all of that together, do you think? I'm going to try it once through, and then it's your turn to do it with me. We might just do it with the music, actually. That might sound like fun. Okay, so from the beginning, we have 3. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. And then it does the cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. I kind of did it that time. Try not to sing chips. That's a very easy mistake to make. Shall we try it? Let's see if we can all do it. Here we go. Oh, not too loud. Cheeky. Oh, a bit faster. Here we go. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheep, 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 chirps cheeky Charlie Chick. How did you get on? Did you do it? One more time. Here we go. Big breath. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheep, 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 chirps Cheeky Charlie Chick. Brilliant! Well done you! Now the very last bit that we need to learn has got lots of cheeps in it that bounce from your low voice to your high voice. Cheep, 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 cheep. Try that, off we go. Cheep, 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 cheep. Wonderful. And then we finish off with one that bounces up high and then gradually comes down in steps. Cheep, 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 cheep. I'll do that again. Cheep, 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 cheep. You'll go. Cheep, 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 cheep. Good. Are you remembering to make your P's come out nice and clearly? Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping. Cheep, cheep, cheep. Brilliant. We're going to do the last little section all the way through. My go first. Cheep, 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 cheep. Your go. Cheep, 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 cheep. I wonder if we can start the music and whether it will work. Off we go. Cheep, off we go. Cheep, 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 cheep. Hurrah! Well done if you managed to go all the way through. We will do that a little bit more next week because, as with all the warm-up exercises, it's not just one part to it. It gets more difficult as you go along. But you might want to practice doing that tongue twister a few times this week. Cheeky Charlie Chick is chirping cheerfully. Cheep, 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 chirps Cheeky Charlie Chick. You could teach it to your grown-ups. That might be quite funny to see if they say chips. Right, it's time, I think, for us to have another little bash at the Build It High song that we started last time. So, when I saw you last time, I played it through for you. I taught you the bit that goes Build It High, if you remember. Yes? And this week we're going to see if we can get through at least verse 1 before it's time to go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play the first section. If you remember, this bit repeats. It happens twice. Okay? And the first phrase goes like this. We've got a problem. We can work it out. Let's get together. That's what it's all about. So do you remember it? It repeats. It's got the same tune and a nice little rhyming bit at the end to help us remember what the words are. Okay, so shall I do a bit? I go first. Off I go. We've got a problem. We can work it out. You'll go. We've got a problem. We can work it out. And then the next section goes like this. Let's get together. That's what it's all about. You'll go. Let's get together. That's what it's all about. Okay, and do you remember me saying last time that the gaps in between the words are almost as important as the bits you have to sing? Those counts that you have to do in between each of the lines. So do you remember how much we had to count in between? Got to build it? Went like this. Got to build it. 1, 2. Build it high. 1, 2, 3. Got to build it. 1, 2. Build it high. 1, 2, 3. Do you remember? Right, let's see if we can do the first section with the music because you've basically heard it all now. That's the big chorus part. And I hope you're going to do this standing up. I'm sitting down just because it's easier for me to get to the music. Okay, are you ready? I think we have to count 8 times before we start. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got a problem.
We've got a problem. We can work it out. Let's get together. That's what it's all about. Got to build it high.
what it's all about. Got to build it high. Got to build it high. Now we're going to learn this bit today. Don't give in because you failed your first attempt. Don't start shouting, what's the point in argument? Let's stand united, take the challenge in our stride. Just remember that we're on the same side. Okay, so if you were really listening, you'll hear that most of that is the same each time. It repeats quite often. The tune is the same in most of the phrases. It's usually just the end bits that are different. So you might have printed out the words, which is excellent, but just hear how it all fits together. So it goes like this. My go first. And you've got to wait for what we call a rest. Those are the things that we're counting in our heads before you start. Okay, so it'll go like this. Ready? And... Don't give in because you failed your first attempt. So I want you to feel that breath in before we start. Ready? And don't give in because you failed your first attempt. Let's do it. Here we go. Don't give in because you failed your first attempt. Did you get it? Did you remember the rest at the beginning? Because there's another one here. Next phrase. Almost the same. Different ending. Goes like this. Don't start shouting, what's the point in argument? Can you hear it goes all the way down this time? I'll do it again. Off I go. Don't start shouting, what's the point in argument? You'll go. Don't start shouting, what's the point in argument? Okay, and then the next bit is almost the same again. It just has more words at the beginning. So it goes like this. Let's stand united, take the challenge in our stride. You try. Let's stand united, take the challenge in our stride. Take the challenge in our stride. We can do it. And then the very last phrase goes like this. Same idea again with the rest at the beginning, but this time we've got longer words with gaps in between to finish off. So it goes like this. Just remember that we're on the same side. You need to take a great big breath for that long note at the end. Shall I do it again for you? It goes like this. Just remember that we're on the same side. You have got to get that really long note and keep it there for 9 whole counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we start off with the chorus again. So really big breath for me. Okay. Shall we try it? All the way from the beginning. If it's a bit tricky, just go back and do it again. But I think for today, that's plenty for us to do. So we're going to go all the way from the beginning. 8 counts before we start. 2 times of we've got a problem. And then we're going to do this new section with the rests. Don't give in. Yeah? And we'll stop there for now. Okay, let me make sure I've got the right track. Here we go. Standing up. Lots of energy, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe now.
We've got a problem, we can work it out. Let's get together, that's what it's all about. Got to build it high. Got to build it high.
Do it again.
We've got a problem, we can work it out. Let's get together, that's what it's all about.
Let's do some actions.
Build it high.
just attempt. And another one. Don't start shouting, what's the point in argument? And another one. Let's stand united, make the challenge in our stride. Last one. Just remember that we're on the same side. We've got a problem, we can work it out. Let's get together, that's what it's all about. Let's build it, got to build it. Build it high, last time, got to build it. So next time I see you, we'll do this verse, which is the last one, and then all that happens is we do the chorus again with a different long bit of Build It High at the very end. So if you've got your words, you can have a bit of a practice. If you want to make up your own dance routine to it, that would be incredible. You could film it and send it to us. But why don't we do the Build It High all together anyhow? So have a lovely week, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed a slightly longer sing-along than we did last week. I'll see you next time for some more singing. Take care then. Bye.